Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the City Council meeting, Monday, February 19th, 2024. I hereby call this meeting to order. And could we please do roll call, Madam Clerk?
Schultz.
Here.
Latta.
Here.
Cruz.
Here.
Haubaker.
Here.
Ganfield.
Here.
Chrisman.
Here.
Dunn.
And just so you know, Kelly, we can't hear you, but we got you.
All members present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And if you could, if you're willing and able, please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And so we have approval of the minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular City Council meeting?
Second.
February 5th. Motion is seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Any agenda revisions, Madam Clerk?
I have no agenda revisions, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And we will now open up for a public forum where speakers will have one opportunity to speak for up to 5 minutes on topics relevant to city business. Is there anyone from the community who would like to speak tonight? And just name and the city for the record, please, if you're comfortable.
Hello, I'm Erica Rissi from the Cedar Valley, and I grew up actually around the Cedar Valley. I had my first job here. I had my first kiss here. I even went to college here. And I was so disappointed to hear, after the outpouring of community support that has been organized on behalf of a resolution for a ceasefire, that you wouldn't even be willing to take it up. But it reminds me why I chose to not raise my family here. And because I still choose to support the various leaders and business owners of this town, I'm here today to remind you of what our group is here organizing with support of the Human Rights Commission to hopefully come to some sort of resolution together. So I'd like to read it for you and remind you. This resolution supporting a permanent ceasefire in Palestine and Israel, the return of all hostages, and the delivery of humanitarian aid, and affirming opposition to anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and anti-Arab bigotry, with the aim of achieving a just and lasting political solution. Whereas all human life is precious, and the targeting of civilians is a violation of international human law. And whereas approximately 1,200 Israelis were killed on October 7th, over 29,000 Palestinians have been killed, which over 11,500 were children, with over 69,000 wounded. And people of other nationalities have been killed between October 7th, 2023, and February 19th, 2024. And where included among those lives lost are 152 United Nations staff, over 300 healthcare workers, and 88 journalists. And whereas continued hostilities have forced 85% of Palestinians in Gaza and 5 to 10 of Israelis to flee their homes. And whereas hundreds of thousands of lives are at imminent risk without an immediate and permanent ceasefire. Restoration of basic necessities and delivery of adequate and unconditional humanitarian aid without delay to Palestinian civilian non-combatants. And whereas more than 100 Israeli hostages are held by Hamas, and more than 7,000 Palestinian hostages are held without due process under Israeli martial law. And whereas the United States government and our elected leaders hold imminent diplomatic power to save Palestinian and Israeli lives, and U.S. law requires that foreign military aid not be used in the contravention of international law. And whereas the United States provides ongoing military aid to Israel, of which approximately 26,423,945 came from Iowa taxpayers in 2022. Whereas the majority of nations in the UN have voted in favor of a ceasefire resolution, and millions of people worldwide, including residents of Cedar Falls and the Cedar Valley, have joined in peaceful protests since October 7th to amplify this call. And whereas Islamophobia, anti-Palestinian, anti-Arab bigotry, and anti-Semitism have risen significantly across the United States and around the world, with direct impacts on communities from synagogues. Cedar Falls affirms its support for all people in Palestine and Israel to live in peace, justice, and security. And 4, the City of Cedar Falls affirms its support to rights of all people, including residents of Cedar Falls, to live, learn, work, play, worship, and engage in peaceful protest, all without intimidation, coercion, or the threat of violence. 5, the City of Cedar Falls asks our congressional delegation to support all resolutions and legislation that match the values stated throughout the Cedar Falls resolution, especially those that aim to alleviate the urgent humanitarian disaster in Gaza and the release of Israeli hostages, such as the U.S. House Resolution number 786. And 6, the City of Cedar Falls affirms the amendment rights of citizens to criticize government or government policy and affirms that criticism of governments in Israel and Palestine is not inherently anti-Semitic or anti-Arab. And 7, the City of Cedar Falls supports the delivery of immediate, unconditional, and sufficient humanitarian aid to the non-combatant people of Gaza. And 8, the City of Cedar Falls resolves that the Cedar Falls Clerk's Office will provide a copy of this resolution to members of the Iowa State Legislature, an Iowa State Governor, the United States congressional delegations from Iowa, and the President of the United States. I'm not sure how much time I have left because I don't see a
20
countdown.
seconds.
I would just like to say that I would love to continue supporting the leaders and the businesses in Cedar Falls, and I would love to regain the trust of the leaders as well, and I think this resolution can do just that. Free Palestine, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Erica. Anyone else for public comment? Name and city for the record, please.
Hello, my name's Charlie Grove. I live in Waterloo, but I am a former Cedar Falls resident. The reason I'm speaking to you as the Cedar Falls City Council is because some of you have expressed questions about where this resolution came from and who is behind it. And I am one of the people who helped draft the resolution. The part I added in specifically was about how many journalists, aid workers, doctors, etc. have been killed. And the reason I felt that was important was in part because it shows the scale in difference between other conflicts in this. The scale of aid workers, doctors, and journalists killed in this conflict is way disproportionate. And it has been a policy of the Israeli military to target journalists. And we know this because on May 11th of 2022, an American-Palestinian journalist named Shireen Abu Akleh was killed by an Israeli sniper. And yes, I said 2022, meaning when there was a supposed ceasefire before October 11th that they keep telling us happened. Shireen Abu Akleh was shot by an Israeli sniper, which means it was deliberate. She was wearing a press vest and a helmet. And to add insult to injury, the IDF then attacked her funeral. They attacked the pallbearers carrying her coffin. I don't know if any of you have been to a funeral recently, but I don't know how you would feel if someone attacked the pallbearers carrying your loved one's coffin. They attacked them to the point where they dropped her coffin. Like, they were beating them with batons. There's footage of this. This happened 2 years ago. And she was a journalist. She was an American citizen. So I think you should support this resolution. You should at least vote on it. I mean, you know, I don't live here anymore, but there are people here who are your constituents, and you owe them that. So thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Anyone else for public comment? Just name and city, please.
Sandra, Cedar Falls. I'm here for the third time to demand that this council pass a resolution calling for immediate and permanent ceasefire in Gaza and all of Palestine. I want to emphasize I'm coming to you simply as a concerned citizen. Any concerns regarding the personal identities, backgrounds, and affiliations of myself and others who stand in support of the Cedar Falls ceasefire resolution and how they may impact your endorsement of said resolution are invasive and inappropriate. Similarly inappropriate was the conduct displayed by the majority of this council 2 weeks ago. How you as elected officials could roll your eyes, display visible disinterest and contempt, and even begin to fall asleep as constituent after constituent urge you to recognize the humanity of the Palestinian people is beyond me. And yet this disregard has also been accompanied with concerns regarding the specific language of our resolution text from some councilors. And I believe that any opinions or suggestions regarding the resolution itself or any desired alternative action would best be voiced during a council work session. It is not a scary thing. Waterloo City Council has already had two. So clearly the sentiment that this resolution is not the business of a city council is not universally shared even within the Cedar Valley. It's more so the fact that you don't want it to be the business of this council specifically. I often heard concerns that our ceasefire resolution picks a side and does not remain neutral. I want to now illustrate how the state of Iowa has demonstrated zero concern for neutrality and repeatedly and unconditionally siding with Israel and has made the support into law, or is attempting to, law that extends to our very municipal government. Per proposed House File 2077, any student of a public institution of higher education found to be endorsing or promoting terrorist organizations will be ineligible to receive any state financial aid, and any student organization who does the same will have their recognition and registration canceled. Time and time again, the efforts of those exercising their free speech rights to advocate for Palestinian liberation and an end to all U.S. involvement in Israel's ongoing ethnic cleansing campaign are framed as being pro-Hamas and supporting terrorism. Kim Reynolds herself, in a demonstration outside her Christmas for Terrorists event this past December, described it as a pro-Palestinian demonstration, described it as a sad and disgraceful protest in support of Hamas terrorists. As such, it is not hard to see how this legislation, if passed, would explicitly target and punish students and student orgs who openly voice support for Palestine and its people. However, you as leaders of the Cedar Falls community did not consent for portions of your student population to be unfairly targeted in this way. Just as you did not consent for your law enforcement to be directed to be extra vigilant in protecting the safety and rights of supporters of the State of Israel explicitly per the recently passed Iowa House Resolution 101. The economy of this community and the state of the whole has also been manipulated to favor Israel and its supporters in ways that surely no one in this room consented to. Per House File 2331, which has been in law since 2016, it created a blacklist of non-U.S. based companies and businesses who boycott Israel, required state agencies to divest from blacklisted entities, and barred any substantial investment or contract with them. And I want to make it clear that these legislative actions are the result of pro-Israeli lobbying groups as well as a direct response to the organizing efforts of Iowans across the state who've rallied their local communities to engage in actions in support of Palestine and its people. As such, writing a city ceasefire resolution off as meaningless or purely symbolic or not worth your time is a great disservice to everyone who's shown up this evening, to the power of grassroots change, and to every Palestinian Gaza in this community. And the majority of both city councils did not attend the Waterloo Human Rights Commission's Courageous Conversations event last Thursday, but had you gone, you would have heard how Palestinians, both in the Cedar Valley and elsewhere in Iowa, felt a sense of community and belonging in being exposed to ceasefire resolution efforts in their cities, that their emotions regarding the genocide in Gaza were being recognized on a community level. So you may think that a ceasefire resolution is a substanceless action, but these feelings are real, they're tangible, and I just want you to remember that. Lastly, I want to mention that the space in downtown Cedar Falls is such a unique and beloved and accessible hub for artists of all sorts, and there would be an unmistakable tear in the community without it. And so I urge you to not condemn the building that houses it, and to do everything you can to support the community's proposed renovation and restoration efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Xander. Anyone else for public comment? Name and city, please.
Jason Drosty, Cedar Falls. Well, good evening. I wasn't intending on speaking, but I feel I should say something. I understand your reluctance. I understand that you're removed from this situation. Start off with a little anecdote here. In 2001, August 13th, I joined the U.S. military, and we all know what happened a month later. One of my good friends, one of my bunk buddies, as we called him, was named Ali Hussein, and he was Saudi Arabian in the U.S. military on September 11th. The reason I bring this up is I was conflicted, he was conflicted, I understand you guys are conflicted. But And we're not asking you to take a side, but you have to stand on the side of human rights. You have to understand that I'm not taking a pro-Israel or pro-Palestine. I'm taking a human rights position, as in, let's stop the big gun and the little gun firing at each other. Any questions for me? Because I'll continue here. So I understand, I heard a lot of consensus, we need to research. We need to research. Well, have you guys had time to research it? You guys feel comfortable with the situation? Do you need more information? I'll give you whatever information I have. I'm sure my friends here will give you any information that they have. We want you to make an informed decision, but we want you to make a decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Just name and city, please.
Hi. My name is Whitney Rissy. I'm a resident of Waterloo, but I'm an Iowa taxpayer. I sent this to you via email, but I didn't hear any response, so I'm going to say it out loud today. I'm reaching out in support of a resolution calling for immediate ceasefire in occupied Palestine. Having spent nearly a decade living and working in Cedar Falls, I am very familiar with the community's values, which don't always stand with diversity and inclusion. Previously, I worked at a very large church in the area, collaboration with the University of Northern Iowa for student ministry. We hosted international students in homes around the Cedar Falls and Waterloo area, fostering connections through shared meals. The event of October 7th brought to light the longstanding occupation of Israel and Palestine, and witnessing the loss of innocent lives on a daily basis, I, like many others, have become rightfully outraged, which is where a lot of our passion comes from, because people are dying today. About a month later, a message from a UNI graduate named Muhammad, with whom I had shared these international dinners with, expressed his hurt and outrage at my role in my Jesus and the USA played in contributing to the suffering of his family and his people. He's right. Through our taxes, now after this most recent package passed, 124 million Iowa tax dollars, we are unintentionally funding a genocide against Muhammad's family and the Palestinian people with bombs and weapons that say, made in the USA. This issue extends beyond international boundaries, and it is a local concern. Within your constituents, there are families who are directly impacted by this genocide. And like mentioned before, in the conversation that we had with the Human Rights, the Courageous Conversations event, we heard from actual Palestinians living in the Cedar Valley. Our federal leaders may not be listening, so that's why we are turning to you. That's why we're here. All of our emails are falling on deaf ears. I urge you to take a stand with human life and be on the right side of history. While we acknowledge that this resolution may not immediately bring out international change, it will demonstrate to your constituents that Cedar Falls cares deeply about diversity and inclusion and the well-being of its people. I also want to echo about saving the space and not condemning it, because it is a safe place for artists to show their work in Cedar Falls. Thank you.
Thank you, Whitney. Anyone else for public comment? Just name and city, please.
Hey, good evening. My name is Sam, and I live in Cedar Falls. So, I am a social work student at UNI that has lived in Cedar Falls for most of my life. And as a resident of Cedar Falls, I'm disappointed to see the lack of action regarding the call for a permanent ceasefire in Palestine. Growing up, Cedar Falls was a lively community filled with passionate leaders showing that they truly cared about other people. Yet, the council I view before me does not appear to care about anyone besides themselves. I see a group of people scared to actually take a stance on calling for a permanent ceasefire and standing for what's right. By continuing to choose silence time and again, what message does it send to our community? The people of Cedar Falls have granted you great power and responsibility because they believe in your capacity to represent the city with integrity. I would love to be able to say that I am proud of the City Council responsible for setting an example for our future generations, but instead I find myself here tonight asking you to recognize basic human rights. Israel and supporting nations, including the United States government, cannot and will not stop until every single Palestinian is dead. I want you to think about that. And once that happens, the violence won't stop there. By sitting back and letting this happen, you are showing the residents of Cedar Falls that you are willing to watch a genocide occur right before your eyes and do absolutely nothing about it. I want you to consider what your future will look like if you do not support the ceasefire resolution. The inability to have even a little bit of empathy for fellow humans will have lost the trust of your once faithful constituents. Is that really the kind of future you want to live? So today I ask you to reflect on the trust and power that you have been given by the residents of Cedar Falls. Additionally, I urge you to save the space and show your constituents that you genuinely care about them and the growth of our city. Let us become a community that is passionate about making the world a better place for everyone, once again. Thank you.
Name and city, please.
Hi, my name is Nick Tripp, and I'm a Cedar Falls resident, and I support a call for ceasefire. I am a social work major, so I don't know much about small town politics, but really I'm confused. And you'd think with a bachelor's, almost a master's, it'd be easier for me to understand what's going on. But how is it that we have a human rights committee specifically talking about human rights and nobody's listening to that? Kind of confused, but maybe you all have your own reasonings for that. But they're kind of confusing to your constituents. I also wonder, the UN, the United Nations, has made this decision, but we all think we're better than the UN? Confusing to me as well. So I would just maybe ask for some humility and considering other people's opinions when, it's just confusing to me, but that's it. That's my one part. I know that last city council meeting as well, there were several people who were urging you to kind of lean into that humility and take the time to use the resources they were giving you to learn more about this issue. They provided several resources, and they continuously brought more and more information in front of you. They even provided other events after that for you all to attend. Can I get a hand raised for the people who did, on this council, who did attend the Courageous Conversation event created for this council?
Typically, we don't have.
That's all right. That's all right, but I know it wasn't a lot. That's okay. But in a more serious note, I shouldn't have to come up here and try to crack a few jokes to get people to maybe listen to me or maybe get people to wake up. And I shouldn't have to, after this, explain in graphic detail and specifics, but to elicit at least some sympathy from this council, but we're getting to that point. If you notice, the more times that we have to come here, the more times people are explaining to you in depth the horrible, terrible things that are happening because you just don't seem to be listening. We all got up today, we all ate our breakfast, we kissed the wife and kitties, and we got on about our days. But what have Palestinians been doing this morning? The ones who are still alive are trying to continue to try and find land that is not being mercilessly bombed. I know none of you, probably, I'm guessing, have ever experienced that kind of domestic terror because we are the United States. I don't think any of you can really imagine that. And I shouldn't have to sit here in front of this council and ask you to imagine that, but that's where we're at this point because this council is not showing a care for human life. I want to vote from this council regarding a ceasefire so I can see which of you will vote for or against human life. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Name and city, please.
Hi, I'm Bella. I am from Cedar Falls. I would just like to say a few things. How close to home does this war have to get before you are just as scared as the people of Gaza? Have you seen the photos of their cold and gray faces? Because all of yours are still pink and full of life. Will you even take the liberty to see it for yourself, or are you too uncomfortable? Children are being given coats that double as body bags when your coats are just keeping you warm. You're tired, and I can tell you're tired of hearing it. I saw some of the sighs when you saw the flags that we brought in here today. What are the people of Gaza listening to that's not bombs and gunfire? Don't you think they're tired? Don't you think they're afraid to fall asleep? Do you think they can even sleep right now? You, and you, and you, and you, all of you are human. This is not a whose side of the story do you want to be on. This is a what side of history do you want to be on. Soon there will be nothing left. They will all be gone. So are you for human rights or not? Call for a ceasefire, a permanent one. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Just name and city, please.
Hello, Amelia Gotera, Cedar Falls. So I wanted to talk about the Thursday courageous conversation with the Human Rights Commission in Waterloo. We heard from a couple of Palestinian panelists who were so gracious to talk with us about their experience, one of whom is Yasser Daga, whose father was recently pulled directly out of Gaza. All of the bombing and what we're seeing was happening right where he was. So he was in that room, and we were in that room. And I asked him what it would look like, what it would feel like for the city council to pass a ceasefire resolution. And he said, seeing people come out to support us and to tell us why they support us makes us feel like part of this community. It shows that people are seeing what we're going through, that they see our humanity. It is unimaginable what we are feeling here. And for those of us who have lost family members, I'll say one of the panelists has lost 18 family members and was still able to sit up there and had to sit up there to educate us. He said, to wake up and to go to work, it hurts. To go through our daily lives, it hurts. So to see the support a community can give us gives us hope and a reason to continue and work within our community together. They said, don't listen to anyone who tells you that local ordinances and local resolutions don't matter. It matters to the people within the community that are going through the pain of wondering if when they wake up, there will be another family member who does not wake up. They talked about when politicians who at the end of the day are going to want to get reelected, they will see that there's a movement in their community. You're seeing it. This is the movement in your community where we are asking you to take a different approach on this. There is time, right? We are showing up. We are here. There may be concern that other voices aren't being heard or that it's too divisive, but I would urge you to consider how many people have come here tonight, how many people come to these things, every 2 weeks to these meetings and make their voices heard. It's so important to us. Please make it important to you. One of the panelists talked about how emotional support is important in a community. So you don't even have to be one of the very active people going out to demonstrations. He said that acknowledging you are going through something terrible when you've lost 18 family members, especially when you are so far away, it's vital that we show our love to them. And we can do that, man. Like we can show that we support this person, these people in their hurt. We can do something substantial. We can do something critical. We can do something real that does not undercut our local government and the power that you guys have. Let's not brush that under the rug, right? Like we know we have power. Our goal with a resolution is to communicate to our federal and our state governments that we don't want $124 million more of our Iowan tax dollars to go towards funding a genocide. We want you to forward our resolution to tell our federal and state governments that we would like the bombing to stop. I would venture to say that all of us would like the bombing to stop. It's so important that it is a resolution because that tells us that you're going to pass this message along. We are showing up, and we need you to show up with us. So let's move, right? Let's move. Let's get this on the agenda, and let's do a vote. I also want to highlight the important things that are happening in our community. We want to save the space. When I was in high school, that came into being by some girls that I knew who were wanting to find a place where we could play music and where we could have a gallery and all these things. So I would urge you to listen to your people and do what you can for that. But let's get going, you guys. Let's move on this agenda and let's make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Lily. Just name and city, please.
Hi, my name is Archer, and I'm from Cedar Falls. I did some quick Googling in the back over there. Google states that Waterloo has about 40,000-ish people that live here. That was in 2021.
Cedar Falls?
Cedar Falls or Waterloo, I don't know, quick Google. The point is that it was 40,000. Another quick Google search showed that 29,000 people have died since October. That is 3/4 of our town could be wiped out. I don't know, 3/4 of us gone. I don't have to do a quick Google search right there for you to know that this is a big problem, and this is something that we can change. I want to ask you all a few questions because I don't believe I can say any more statistics or stories or echo anything else to get you to understand. How much more violence has to happen before you agree to calling for a ceasefire? How many more times do we have to plead for the already lost lives of over 29,000 people? How many times do we have to say the same things for you to listen to us as your citizens? Will it ever be enough? Because if you cannot join the call for a simple ceasefire, your citizens know that you will not stand up for them, ever, that you will not protect them. As you've heard today, we will not live in a place that supports this violence. We will leave the Cedar Valley because we know that we're not safe here, because we have people that are not safe here, because you do not call on this ceasefire. You have a simple task. The work is already done for you. These people have already done this for you. All you need to do is join our call to stop this war and join the ceasefire. All you need to do is at least call a vote. Listen to us and what your people care about. Call for the ceasefire. Thank you.
Thank you, Archer. Just name and city, please.
Good evening, Sonia Bach, Cedar Falls. I think this would get easier after I've done it a couple times, but it doesn't. Okay, so one thing just real quick, as I already stated before, other cities are doing this, so it's not something that would be way out there to do it. So I just have a few points I just wanted to share, some concerns that have come up. So grassroots organizations, let's just think about them. I'm only going to give you one real quick. Mothers Against Drunk Driving, 1980 started. Mother did not want her daughter to die in vain. So imagine when she started going around and approaching people and saying, hey, people shouldn't drink and drive. People should only drink this much and make sure that they're safe. And they probably said, lady, really? You really think you're going to get people to stop drinking? That's what people do, okay? But somebody listened, and it started to grow. And it got more support because somebody took the time to realize that this was an issue. Support, I'm sure, came from other parents that have lost their children or family members. Now it's 40-some years later, the impact on policy, procedures, and laws from someone who stood up and said, hey, I'm not going to have this happen anymore. Just think about it in those terms of everyone here that's worked so hard on the ceasefire resolution to come forward. They deserve their time at the table. We did have the Courageous Conversations, which was put on by the Waterloo Human Rights last week. Anyone who didn't make it, there is a video that you can watch, and I'll gladly share it with anyone who requests that. I think that's very important to take the time, because it's sad, but we heard these lived experiences. It's sad that people have to come out again and emotionally bleed for us to pay attention, to hear the pain and the suffering that was going on. We also have to realize that when it comes to policy and procedures, we have to listen to minority communities. Not always the majority is going to have an insight of what's going on or understand the graphs, the depths of what these issues are. Just like when we had the LGBTQ resolution, I think I'm safe to say, and maybe said this here before, that I don't think the majority of Cedar Falls is a part of the community, but they may be part of the community and allies, and we had an outpouring of support for that. We want to grow our community, and by growing our community, we have to show that we're embracing diversity, inclusion, and a safe and wonderful town to live in. We need to save the space so that artists and just everyone can have a place to go and enjoy. When last 2 weeks there was a lady who came here and talked about Satori Hospital and her fear that this could be closed or moved all the way out, and partnering with Mayo. If you spend any time in Rochester, you're going to see a wonderfully diverse community that embraces each other, okay? So these are the things that we have to do to lay the foundation so that we can grow. I know there might have been some people upset that there may be people in the room that didn't stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to humanity and human rights. The red stripes and those flags represent blood. And I can tell you, since the beginning of the foundation and the beginning of the United States of America, I've had family whose blood is represented in those stripes. And so I'm dedicated to being a nation that cares about humanity globally. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. Anyone else for public comment? And give a second for the hallway too, just in case. Oh, Bob. Name and city, please.
Start my own timer, Mayor, so that you don't have to cut me off. Ladies and gentlemen, including Ms. Dunn, unfortunately I'm here to discuss with you an affront to the citizens of Cedar Falls and the students and faculty at the University of Northern Iowa. The problem is there are houses in various states of disrepair in the College Hill area. 3 of these houses are located directly across from President Nook's house on College Street. It must be an embarrassment for him to show his house to prospective faculty, to prospective students with this kind of property in the neighborhood. 3 of these houses are located directly across the street from him, as I said. One of the tenants has described these houses as so poorly maintained that he contends the owner is a slumlord. He did not want to have his name used. There are multiple problems here where these properties are involved. 2510 College Street has siding missing, exposed wood that will rot if not painted. 2516 College Street, siding is badly discolored, boards are missing on an outside deck, lumber and boards are laying beside the property with a vacant sign on the mailbox. No cars in the parking lot. Director Birdie, would you help pass out some documents to the council? Is that allowed?
Typically proceed. Go ahead.
Okay. This can go to the council and this can go to the people sitting out here. Council? Yep. Yeah. And assistants. 2522 College Street is sorely in need of paint. It's badly chipping. Hopefully it's not a lead-based paint. This is not in the last 12 months' problems. We can't say it was last fall, but unfortunately the shape the house is in, it must be over a period more than a year of non-treatment. 813 28th Street is 1 block south of University on 28th and College Street. There's unfinished soffit above the house. Garage appears useless with garage door off the track. The siding is peeling, which again cannot be in the past year. It's so deteriorated. The way that the shingles are so badly curled and past their useful life, the garage must leak. At 808 West 28th Street, siding missing and or broken. At 802 to 804 West 28th Street, the window is boarded up, siding chipped or broken. At 801 to 803 West 28th Street, similar to other properties above. It's to wonder this owner did not complete his conflict of interest statement correctly. The document is a public record completed by all of the Cedar Falls City Councilors, where he has continued to say no conflicts. Perhaps this is why he so firmly lobbies against the College Hill visioning plan, as this could boil over into requiring his properties to be fined or repaired. We understand that the council is looking into revising the conflict of interest statement, and we applaud them for that. But this is not Washington, D.C., this is Cedar Falls, Iowa, where we don't think we have to legislate to the nth degree. We agree that it's necessary to do that because personal ethics should play a big part in how our council operates. But alas, it appears that we have to legislate this when one individual tries to sweep things under the rug. So again, we applaud you for moving forward on that conflict of interest revision statement. In addition, we would request that the counselor be more honest and ethical with his comments as a counselor. If he cannot honestly do this, then the best case scenario will be for Darrell Cruz to resign. I'm speaking solely as an individual, not representing any other group. These are my own opinions and thoughts for the council to ponder tonight. I'm embarrassed for him and how he's treated property in our beautiful city. Thank you, Mayor.
Any other public comment for tonight? And again, I'll give a moment for the hallway too. All right, seeing none, thank you everyone for making the time to come tonight. And we're going to move on with the rest of and just something I did want to say is I know we haven't taken action at the council yet, but we are having conversations. I know it's, especially in situations like this, time is always of the essence, but so thank you for making the time and appreciate it. So,
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Kelly?
Do you mind
Councilmember Dunn, excuse me.
Do you mind if I speak for a moment?
If council's all right with that? Yep, go ahead.
The main reason for me wanting to speak, well, first I appreciate the engagement and the work of the folks who are sitting in council chambers and who have spoke not only at this meeting but at previous meetings. I guess because I'm not there to, I just want to make sure that my voice, silence sometimes is not good, and I understand that. So I just want to make it known publicly here. I support peace in Gaza. I do consider myself an empathetic person. I do consider myself a fighter of human rights. I think that's a big reason why I sit in this seat. And I have met with some of the folks who have either spoke tonight or have spoken prior. I am always willing to keep learning. I apologize that I didn't make it last Thursday. I was home with my child. That's mainly it. Obviously, right now, I'm not I'm not in support of the city taking action on this proposed resolution, but I'm always willing to have a conversation. And I definitely, even though some may not consider me sympathetic or empathetic, I do consider myself, I don't think I would be sitting in this position if I wasn't that person. So I guess mainly I'm speaking because I know people are at home thinking, why are they not saying anything? And also I know Andy's probably there and I'm out of state right now, so I want to make sure Andy has his quote. So, but I very much, I do mean this. If there's folks in our community, and I know that there are, so I'm not saying it, because I believe what the folks are saying. But I will always stand for folks in our community to feel welcome and safe. And I guess that's it. I'm rambling, but I appreciate, you know, everyone coming and speaking. I just didn't want to stay silent. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Dunn. And I know, I'll just say something quick, and if anybody else would like to say something, you're welcome to, but I know typically in an open public forum, we usually don't have the dialogue back and forth because that's not what it's for. Usually that's work sessions and things. So I know that's why we typically sit up here without responses, is typically we're not supposed to respond during public forum. I will say though, just from my conversations one-on-one with all the council members, there is an empathy and a sympathy and an absolute recognition of the human rights aspect of what's going on. There have been the conversations just about what's the role of city government, and that's why that's a difficult conversation. And I know there's just a lot of the discussion about what's the role of city government versus us as individuals and our elected positions and the voice that comes with that. So I just want to know, or want everyone to know, it's not that the city isn't responding or not listening at all. It's just a lot of those conversations I've been having. I've been meeting with all the council members to kind of get a sense of where's everyone at with this. What's the role with the city? Is it to look at maybe a work session with the resolution, to look at feedback on it? Is it that it's not a city function to approve a resolution, but there's other steps we can take to make sure we're showing residents that there's action being taken and that we're addressing some of the things, you know, we've heard from the state legislation that's going on and the inflammatory responses that that's causing because of how they're pushing it out, inflammatory being caused by the state resolution. So I just want to show that there is conversation happening and appreciate everyone giving the time to have the conversation, have the dialogue, and make the time to come out tonight. So thank you. And I will, if anybody wants to comment.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, real quick. I agree with the talk of we are empathetic, we are sympathetic, but this is what's going on in the world right now, right? But it's not just that. There's the Ukraine, there's Sri Lanka, there's Yemen, there's Afghanistan. This world has global issues. Our function is that's the challenge for us to go, we were elected to fix the streets and get the parks in order and keep your taxes below $12, which Chris wants to go 13, but we'll see what happens. So it's not that I appreciate the conversation, right? But I think the workshop that we should have wouldn't just be, okay, we'll do this resolution. It's what's our role over the whole outside of our function. What is our role there? So, but I appreciate passion. God, you know, bless you. So
I just want to say that this isn't just if we don't respond here and just make decisions, because right now is not when we're supposed to take action, but it is still an ongoing conversation. So again, thank you for making the time to come present. All right, so we're going to move on with the past public forum unless last call. Is there any comments for public forum? Again, a couple of people in the hallway, but.
Mr. Mayor, can I make a comment?
Yeah, no.
Thank you. I just feel, you know, as the student liaison here, I am not having conversations with students about this on our campus, but I know there are UNI students here, and I want to tell you thank you for coming and thank you for engaging with your city government, because you have a right to do that. And I just want to echo everything the other members said as well, but thank you for that. You came here tonight, and I'm a political science student, and the one thing we learn in our civic engagement class is show up and say something, and you may not, you know, yes or no, you may not get what you want, but you came and you used your voice for something. So that's really important. And again, want to echo what everybody else said, but want to thank you for coming and speaking, even if it was uncomfortable. It's scary, it's uncomfortable, and I know, as Gil said, there's a lot of things going on in the world right now, but I just felt as the student representative here, hearing UNI students, that I should say something. I didn't say anything last week, wanted to listen, and I'll continue to listen. So, you know, thank you, everybody, for coming and speaking and giving your time. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Noah. All right, otherwise, we will just take a quick 5-minute break to let everyone kind of, for those who are still staying afterwards, to stay. Not feel free to leave, but we'll take a quick 5-minute break and come back at 5 till. Okay. Thank you, everyone. We took a quick recess. So for those of you just tuning in, we're just getting to the agenda after the public forum. So we'll give him a minute. Gil is in the audience.
He's rogue.
He's making his way back up. All right, we'll give just a second here.
Gil Schultz, everybody.
Did you have public comment, Gil? Is that why you're...
Excuse me,
You went to the microphone.
I was involved with a conversation, I guess, sorry.
All right, so we are now on staff updates. Council, I was about council, you're not a council member.
Oh,
City
sure.
Administrator Gaines. Do you have any staff
not,
updates?
Mayor. Mayor, I have two staff updates tonight. Director Rodenbeck would like to give us a little update on parking and the parking study that's going on, and then Director Schragi on some construction updates. So.
Okay. As most of you are aware, we did start a parking study for the downtown area. And in December, the consultant was here doing some parking counts. And as also part of the process, we are going to have a couple options for public input. So there's 2 meeting dates. You can see up on the screen there that the consultant will be here to provide just some updates about some of his data he's collected already, but also just if you want to come and give input. So one of the times is Monday, February 26th at 6 p.m., and the other one is Tuesday, February 27th at 1:30 p.m. And both of those meetings will be held at the library in the upstairs meeting room. So if you're interested and want to attend, you can feel free to attend one of those. And then if you're not able to attend but still want to give your input, today an online survey opened up. So I think you can see the next slide up there actually has the QR code that will take you right to the survey. It will be open for a couple weeks here, February today through March 4th. And I think I saw a sign right outside the door that has the QR code on it. Some out there by the steps too. So we just invite people to participate.
Thank you, Jen. Any council questions? I would just make a impassioned plea to the community. I know parking is a very passionate topic for a lot of us. This is the chance to get your input in. So if you're able to, either through the QR codes in person, I think speak for all of us up here, feel free to email us so we can get that included in the survey. This is the chance to get that input in. So encourage everyone to do that. All right, otherwise, Chase?
So I just wanted to provide the council with a brief construction-related update. As we approach March here, obviously we've had a very mild winter that's conducive to continuing construction for most of the winter, but one of the larger projects that we'll want to get started on here in March timeframe would be Main Street again. Just to remind you that this year's phase of construction would be from 12th Street to 18th, with the main focus on the 12th Street intersection, and that will require a closure. So as we approach some of those dates that we will be performing the closure, we'll work with the contractor and get some public notice out well in advance of that closure. So,
Thank you, Chase. Any questions, council?
Chase, is that, will that 11th and Main intersection be closed, or is that one?
yeah, so they'll start, their main focus at the beginning of the spring will be basically from 11th to 13th. That'll be kind of the area. Yep.
All right. Now we'll move on to the special order of business then. So item number 2, a public hearing to consider entering into an amended and restated agreement for private development with CV Commercial LLC. Do we have a motion to receive and file, proof of publication, notice of hearing?
Yep. Motion to receive proof
Motion,
of publication.
Second.
Second.
Been motion seconded. Madam Clerk, any written communications?
I have no written communications.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And then staff comments, we have Shane Graham.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Take a vote on that.
Oh,
Notice
we
of
need to vote
publication.
to wait
Yep.
to receive, okay, excuse me. So voice vote for the receive and file. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. So staff comment, Shane, it's yours.
2021, City Council approved an agreement for private development with CV Commercial LLC for a new 5-story mixed-use building to be constructed at their property at College and 22nd Street within the College Hill Urban Renewal area. When that agreement was passed, in the agreement itself, it listed a completion date of December 31st of 2023. But because of several delays with the project hasn't commenced as of yet, and obviously we are past that date right now. So the developer has asked to amend the agreement. They do plan to move forward with the construction of the project this spring with an anticipated completion date of next year. So in the agreement itself, and I highlighted it in the memo, there's just several areas that we're updating in the agreement. One, updating that completion date from December 31st, 2023 to December 31st, 2025. Again, it's anticipated that the project will commence this spring. I believe there's one structure on those properties. There's 3 properties total. I think there's one house still sitting on one of the properties that will be demolished to make way for the project. 2 is updating the construction cost of the project. In the original agreement, the estimated construction cost was $5 million. The developer has indicated that they're using more, the increased estimate of $6,250,000. And then updating the amount of maximum amount of tax rebates that the project may receive over the 5-year time frame. In the original agreement, it was a maximum of $593,937. That's being increased to a maximum of $717,087. And this number is changed due to the increased building costs again from the $5 million to the $6,250,000. And then it's also reflecting the current tax rate. So when the original agreement was approved, it was using the tax rate of 2021. Now we're updating that to reflect the current tax rate. And again, please remember that that number is a maximum amount that they can receive, and it'll all be dependent on what the county assessor assesses the property at, and they will actually just get what the taxes paid are over the 5-year period. So that's a maximum amount over that period, depending on what the valuation is after the project is completed by and assessed by the assessor's office. So with this amended agreement, this was reviewed and approved by both the city and the developer, and so staff would ask that council approve the amended agreement, and then the developer will look forward to moving the project forward. And I'm here for any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Shane.
I just have one quick question.
Go for it.
Is that $1 million and change increase strictly building costs, or is it a change in design?
I believe it's just construction costs. So the council, I believe in 2019 or 20, I don't have the dates, approved the site plan for the project, and nothing is changing with the site plan. It's still 5 stories. It's still a mixed use, still has the same layout and everything. I'm guessing it's just a construction cost increase.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you, Shane. We'll now open for any public comments on this item. All right, seeing none, we will close the public hearing. And item number E is we have a resolution approving and authorizing execution of amended and restated agreement for private development with CV Commercial LLC. We have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Open for discussion. Seeing none, we require a roll call vote.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Ms. Dunn?
I'm sorry. I have my voting, the Municode pulled up, but I don't have an item to vote on.
Okay, because it shows.
And I refreshed.
So she voted.
1 second here.
It shows I voted?
Yeah.
Yeah, it did.
I
So you just keep doing it
didn't.
over again?
Well, we can just want to do a voice vote for her.
But Hannah's isn't showing.
Yay.
Yep. So we have a yay for Hannah. Kelly, you want to go ahead and do a voice vote?
Yay.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And Kelly, we'll check with you on all the votes just to be sure.
Sounds good. Thanks so much.
All right, move on to item number 3. So a public hearing on the proposed plan, specifications, form of contract, and estimate of costs for the North Cedar Heights Area Reconstruction Project Phase 2. We have a motion to receive and file proof of publication.
So moved.
Second.
And second. And a voice vote. So all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Our motion passes. So Madam Clerk, any written communications?
I have no written communications on file, Mr. Mayor.
Madam Clerk, and then we have staff comments. David Wicki. Thank you, David.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Tonight's public hearing is for the North Cedar Heights
area reconstruction phase 2. The project consists of constructing Timber Drive from Grand Avenue to Greenwood Avenue, East Ridgewood Drive from Greenwood Avenue to Cherry Lane, and then Woodland Drive east of Ridgewood Avenue. Work includes reconstruction of water main, storm sewer, sanitary sewer, new subdrain, new asphalt pavement with concrete curb and edging. The total estimated construction cost for this project is $4,520,727, and it'll be funded by the local option sales tax, street construction fund, sanitary sewer rental fund, and general obligation bonds. And if you have any questions, I can answer those.
Council, any questions? What we got? Okay. Otherwise, we will look to then public comments. If anyone from the public would like to speak on this item at this time. All right, seeing none, we will close the public hearing and look for a motion and resolution approving and adopting the plan, specifications, form of contract, and estimate of cost for the North Cedar Heights Area Reconstruction Project Phase 2.
So moved. Second.
Motion and seconded. Any conversation? Discussion? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote.
Aye.
Thank you, Kelly. Councilmember Dunn.
I think they're switched.
Oh, it's.
Looks like she signed into the wrong one.
Are you trying to pretend to be Councilmember Dunn?
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
All right, that motion passes. Thank you. So we'll move on to item number 4, a hearing on the proposed condemnation of property located at 109 East 2nd Street. We have written communications.
I have no written communications on file.
And then we have staff comments from Jamie, who will help walk us through the whole thing.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Today we're here to speak about the potential condemnation of 109 East 2nd Street. The first thing I want to do before we get into the slideshow of the inspection is I want to talk a little bit about what condemnation means for the building department. So what condemnation means is doesn't mean that we want to have the building condemned and torn down. We are acknowledging an issue, a life safety, sanitary conditions issue that we want to bring forth to the council, that we can work together to either have the issue resolved or, if it comes to it, have the building demolished. But our ultimate goal is to work with and bring the issue to council and to the owner to make sure that we can correct the issue. So moving forward, I do have a presentation. So the condemnation committee was called together to inspect on January 31st. The council members were Latta, Schultz, Ganfield, myself, fire captain, and a county health officer was present at the inspection. So a little history on the property and why it was brought to our attention is on January 12th of this year, officers and paramedics were called to the property for a health issue with the owner. When the officers arrived, they noticed that the building had insanitary conditions, there were structural concerns, and that lacked heat. They were called back a couple days later to assist in removing the owner's animals. At that point, they noticed that the pipes were potentially frozen. On January 15th, I worked with CFU to have the water turned off so there wasn't any potential issues as the temperatures were in the negative. At that time, with the approval of the board of the space, I did do an inspection and agreed with the officers of the condition of the property. On January 15th, I then requested that we call a committee together to move this property into potential condemnation. So the violations that we found when we were there, the first of concern was the stairs leading up to the upper level, which is the apartment, were in very bad shape. They were being held together. They were not code compliant. We actually recommended only one person going up the stairs at a time because we feared for how much weight they could hold. Once we entered the upper floor, we realized that the ceiling was falling. There were multiple buckets of water collecting water from the roof where it was leaking. You can see in the picture on the left, the ceiling falling down. It was actually being held up by a 2x4 and a broom. So we're not sure exactly how much issue there was, but we know that it was not a safe situation. You can see on the right, the floor, just from all of the water that has been dripping over years, is degrading the floor.
Some additional pictures of the upper floor. You can see, again, just that ceiling is falling apart. There is structural issues, and then there are multiple non-compliant electrical items. We think that the owner potentially was doing work without a permit and was not a licensed electrician. Some additional items. The two on the middle and the left are the stairs. You can see that the handrail is not sufficient. The wall is actually falling apart there and has been patched numerous times. The one on the right is the beneath the stairs. You can see some mold issues. And then again, you can see the light through the stairs kind of in the back of that picture. The one on the left is actually the floor joists right next to the stairs. The middle is the main floor, which is the space. That is their only heater, and it was not functioning at the time. There's also a significant amount of water damage evident from, I'm not sure what event happened, but water damage around that unit. And then more water damage. This is below where the bathroom is. On the exterior, there is some cracking on the CMU. I do know that at one point the owner did tuck point the rest of the building, but there are some cracks that are occurring, and this is where the stairs are located. And then in the space, there is a bathroom and some other plumbing that is not currently code compliant. I don't know if it was compliant when it was installed, but there are some plumbing issues that need to be resolved. So with that, what we are asking is that the City Council declare the property a nuisance. The City Council order abatement of the nuisance by 4 o'clock on March 18th, 2024. And that means that it's either completely abated or a viable plan of action with a detailed schedule and financial plans for completion of the abatement is submitted. I'll discuss a little more what that means next. If the owner fails to complete either option, the building official is directed to remove, correct, or abate the nuisance by demolition or removal, all costs to be covered by the property owner. So what we're looking for in a viable plan shall include repairing all of those items that we saw. We want to have the ceiling finishes to be evaluated, to reevaluate the roof structure, and repairs required. Re-roof entire roof, patching would not be adequate at this point. Tuck point exterior, where it wasn't tuck pointed before. Repair floor and joists where deteriorated as determined by a professional. Replace damaged floor sheathing at upper level. Remove all wall finishes and replace. This includes plaster and sheetrock. What I didn't mention before, it looked like there might have been some sort of fire event at some point, and so there is a lot of smoke damage. Properly install all plumbing fixtures throughout the entire building with a licensed plumber and complete inspections by city staff before restarting the water. Make required updates to the building's electrical provisions to eliminate need for extension cords. Provide and install heating system for entire building. Verify the sewer services fall in the basement. One of the pictures I did not include, but it was in the earlier report, is that it appears that the sewer has backfall. And then finally, remove and provide new code compliant stairs. And again, if the owner fails to complete either option, the building official is directed to remove, correct, or abate the nuisance by demolition or removal. Sorry, wrong button. So that is my presentation. I'm willing to answer questions, but I do know that the current owner is here and has a presentation also.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thanks, Jamie.
Kendall, if you'd like to.
Hello, and thank you for letting me come and talk, and thanks for welcoming to the neighborhood. I guess what I'm here to say is I don't disagree in any of the needed repairs. I just hope that you take some understanding into consideration of my game plan. I didn't realize that I was going to be in this position a month ago, so everything that I've done has been within the last month, and so this is our current building, and it houses the Space 109, and I can't really separate it from the building, from the organization. And even if I can't save the building, I hope to save the space. The space wants you to imagine what it could be. A gallery that includes everyone, free of cost. A studio that sparks creativity, imagination, and growth. A place to connect, create, and explore. Imagine a space where walking into the historic building gives you the idea of what it used to be, from the lath and plaster to the historical block building to the vines that we all know and love. This space has always been here since the beginning of Cedar Falls. I'm hoping to change from the residence that was upstairs to have it be a fully commercial building and have it be used by everyone, both upstairs and down. We are facing a lot of issues with the building. We all know it, we've all seen it. We know. We need to work together to create the funding to be able to save the building, to save the organization, and to save the promise that I gave John. We've been really working hard to try to form a plan in the time that we've had. I've been contacting different companies, and we've been in contact with Black Hawk Roofing, and we have a dumpster coming this next weekend to start our game plan of cleaning out the street level. We have planned a process of events because right now we definitely agree that the stairs are not safe. And so we want to clean out the street level and under the stairs. Then we want to fix the stairs and hopefully in the meantime have the roof patched to lower any risk while we have the time to be able to replace the roof. Right now, the building is under a time of natural progression and change. I'm not the current owner, really. I am the executor of the estate. That estate won't be closed until June. I'm not sure what funding I can use from the estate, and I know it's not enough to fully save the building. The way I have it in my head is the upstairs is a fully stocked studio from student and child supplies to professional supplies. And you can all learn together, learning different techniques, learning different mediums, investing in time with your friends and family without investing in a full art studio setup at home when you only pick it up once, hate it, and set it down for the rest of your life. We'll do that for you. Someone else will love it, and you will also find something that you will love. You will find your next passion. We are created by the artist for the community. You don't have to create any certain thing. From written word to visual arts, everything is welcome and everyone has a voice. We hope to partner with everybody in our community to reach creative solutions in a way that hasn't been seen before. We want to advocate for the arts by connecting everyone and creating opportunities. We want to cultivate education and advance the economic environment in our community. And we want to gather support and resources for us and others to support the arts. We have a lot of problems, but we also have a lot of solutions. We hope that everyone in our community has a reason to be here, and everyone is part of our target market. Our community already has some arts with the Hearst Center, the Waterloo Center of the Arts, and some of our lively art festivals. We are not in competition, and we don't want to be in competition. We want to be friends and a network that includes everyone. We've already formed a good team of people, and our pledge volunteers and supporters are growing by the day. From companies to individuals, we're really seeing the community already come together. There's far more friends of the space than I even realized before this started. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kendall. So just quick from my side, I know I didn't get a chance to meet John or never knew him personally, but if any of you have ever walked by that space, you've probably met him at some point. And he was an amazing patron of the arts, which is why the space even exists in the first place. And so I just appreciate you guys. I know on very short notice working on put all this together. So I quipped a few times that, you know, if you had $10 for every senior photo that was taken in front of that building, you probably had paid off all the renovations pretty quickly. So I think we can, just to check for public hearing, Kevin, since I know it's a little different for these and others, can we have discussion now, or should we move to the motion and then open for discussion?
If the parties are finished speaking, then you close that part of it, and then council will take up their decision.
Even if we still want some back and forth with questions of...
Certainly, council can ask, absolutely.
Let's move to the motion and open that up. Okay. So look then for a motion for resolution declaring the property located at 109 East 2nd Street to be nuisance due to being structurally unsafe, a fire hazard, or otherwise dangerous to human life and health, and ordering abatement of said nuisance by removal, repair, or demolition of said property, and requiring the owner of said property to abate said nuisance or submit a viable plan by March 18th, 2024.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second, and we'll open up for discussion.
Well, I am a huge fan of the space and all of the things that you guys have done. I think this is an incredible achievement to have put this plan together in this much time. There are obviously people who say they want to start a business for years and they never get to this point. So I think you should really feel some pride in all the work that you've done so far. You know, this is obviously going to be a big challenge, but I think if you stick with it, that there's a huge possibility. I know I've heard from a lot of people that are willing to give their support, so don't be afraid to ask for it. Take the help you can get. You know, it's probably going to be a process, but it'll be worth it. You'll get there.
I have a question for Jamie, maybe, yeah, come on up, Jamie. I'm not going to change yet, but with the situation with the June, when Kindle potentially, has that been in consideration with this timeline, or how do you?
So the March date is not wanting to know that the project's going to be done. The March date is give us your schedule. Is it going to be 6 months? Is it going to be a year? What is it going to take for you to complete this project? We obviously don't want it to take 3 years, 5 years, but we want to understand what steps are you going to take and how long is it going to take. And that June date would definitely be taken into account since they are limited to what they can do.
Councilmember Lowder.
Jamie, do you have a sense of, given the list of items that are here, approximate cost for something like this?
I have some minor guesstimates without seeing actually how the structure is, but I'm going to guess it's going to be at least $100,000, but probably more like $200,000 if they are having to rebuild everything.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask? Oh, go ahead.
Councilmember Cruz.
Knowing construction timelines and availability of contractors, it's with what I see for damage there and so on, it'd be very difficult to have any kind of accurate timeline. I mean, stripping it to the studs and cleaning it up and making a usable staircase is easy, or easier, but to finish it out and have a completed habitable structure could be a couple years to raise the funding. So would it be acceptable to the building department or whoever decides that if they strip it to the studs on the second floor, get the downstairs cleaned up, the whole building cleaned up, and then the roof repaired so it doesn't leak, is that enough to pause the condemnation? or, you know,
We're looking for a safe building, and so those items that you mentioned are definitely the things that we need to have completed. It doesn't necessarily need to be finished out and become a business, but we do need to know that that roof has been repaired and further damage isn't going to happen. And if someone's walking up those stairs, that there's not going to be an injury, and that there's heat back in the building so we can get the water on.
for wintertime, of course.
But we are willing to work with someone as they progress through a timeline. We understand changes happen. We just want to make sure that we have a commitment that that work's going to happen.
And then availability of funds through the estate settling process can take a long time.
Correct.
So, okay. So do we want to change the March 18th date, given what we just heard?
Well, if I may, Jamie, there's some flexibility with that date if needed. Is that correct?
Really, the communication is the big part.
Right. The whole idea for declaring something a nuisance is to bring it to the attention. And I think that everybody knows now, right, that it's something that needs to be worked on. So there's a communication with the city that there's some plan going forward that can change depending upon the conditions of the estate or fundraising. But that communication needs to happen. You have to know we're working to having a safe structure, right?
Correct.
And does the nuisance process then also help us, as far as occupancy and things like that, keeping it safe so that the city has a role in that?
Correct. This really is giving us the opportunity to make sure that we're maintaining the safety, and whether that is immediate and they're going to get in there and do it right away, or if we're going to keep people away from the building until it's repaired.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Anyone else for comments? Do you have something?
Well, I was just going to say, based on this, what we just saw presented to us, that's a plan. Would that be a sufficient plan to satisfy the March 18th date? I mean, that's
The
a bit of a
plan-
stretch, but maybe
Are you
not.
asking about what was presented by the owner?
Yeah.
I don't know that that plan included a timeline for addressing the items we listed. It was a plan about a vision for the future space, which is great, but we asked for a plan related to the items on the list.
Well, that would be up to the roofing contractor and so on, and availability of money to do the project, and, I mean...
So it'd probably just be the process of getting some of those dates and times and trying to work with contractors to figure some things out. And 'cause I would say too, as council, I know that we're voting on this specific piece, but my thought has been with some of that just direction to staff of giving some of that latitude to be able to encourage working with the space and looking at any possible resolutions. And that would be my goal, is working with staff, is making sure we're doing what we can to work with the space and look at the opportunities for it.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
Jamie, would you be able to answer, is there any imminent risk or potential risk to the adjacent neighbors as it sits now with the condition of the property?
We don't see any issues with adjacent neighbors at this time.
Thank you.
Jamie, you made mention of the east, is it the east wall that you saw some cracks in?
Yes.
No, to Chris's point, nothing of, because we have had walls downtown fall over, right? So this isn't one of those that's at risk?
With my quick glance, I haven't done a structural analysis or had anybody do that, but from what I saw, a lot of that is just cosmetic, but we would want to confirm that it is only cosmetic. And then it is where the stairs are attached, which might be some of the issues with the stairs if there's movement in that wall. But I don't foresee any issue with the public.
Thanks.
Okay, unless there's any other comments, we have a motion and second to approve as written. Any other last comments? Otherwise, we'll move to a roll call vote.
I'm just going to keep voting by my voice because I still don't have a thing. I say aye.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And a really quick question for you, Kendall. Just for me as a citizen, but also in case anyone else wants to know, is there a current way you're fundraising or a way for people to reach out and contact you about potential interest in donations? If you want to come up.
Right now, we are switching over the bank account from being connected to John's personal account to having it be a business account. And so that will be done by tomorrow, I believe. And so it should be good to go. And we will be posting that as soon as tomorrow. and getting a GoFundMe and something situated. And then we have a number of events in the works, but no clear dates in mind yet.
Yep. And then do you have a best way to reach you guys? By phone, Facebook?
Facebook is probably the best, most central kind of location. It connects to our board members and me, and it's the Space 109, so.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Dunn.
I don't mean to keep interrupting, but I think I've got it figured out, so just an update.
For your voting? Wonderful. All right, we will move on to old business. So pass ordinance, item number 5, pass ordinance number 3047, imposing the 1% local option sales tax and services tax within the city of Cedar Falls and allocating the revenue derived therefrom upon its third and final consideration. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second, and requires, any discussion? And requires a roll call vote.
Kelly, do you want to do a voice vote?
She said she got it.
Did it come through?
No, not yet. Do you want me to refresh on here?
She looks like she's trying really hard.
We'll still need you to do by voice, Kelly. We haven't heard your voice yet, so you might be muted.
Yay. Did it just come through?
No.
Nope, still hasn't.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Kelly, we'll just keep going voice vote.
Sounds good. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine. All right, item number 6, passed ordinance number 3048, amending the zoning map located north of Aldrich Elementary School and south of West Green Hill Road from R1 residential district and MU mixed use to residential or to RP planned residence district upon second consideration, or suspend the rules requiring ordinances to be considered at 3 separate meetings, which will require us 6 aye votes, and pass the ordinance upon its third and final consideration. If you remember, this is the one for the change to the land use map that we had stalled for a week, so I believe we had a council member request to have it.
I'm going to motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
Got a motion and seconded. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I just feel like this was unanimously passed through P&Z. We passed it on its first reading with no discussion from council, no discussion from public, so I don't see any reason not to suspend this.
Okay. And seeing no further discussion, are we on the, for that? So we had motion and second. So this requires a roll call vote to.
Voice vote on the suspension of the rules.
Okay, so a voice vote on suspension of the rules. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. So then we need to do the, so we did the suspension, so just do the third piece.
Roll call on the ordinance.
Passing the ordinance for its third and final consideration. So we're looking for a roll call, or do we need to motion it first? Yep, so a motion on passing ordinance number 3048, amending the zoning map.
Second.
For its third and final consideration, motion and seconded. A roll call vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you, Kelly.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
And that motion passes. All right, moving on to number 7, pass ordinance number 3049, amending Chapter 17, Parks and Recreation of the Code of Ordinances relative to cemetery section upon its second consideration. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
And seconded. Any discussion? And a roll call vote, please. Still need you, Kelly. If you were.
Aye.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
That motion passes. All right. Item number 8, passed ordinance 3050, amending Chapter 23, Traffic and Motor Vehicle of the Code of Ordinances relative to the speed limit on certain portions of West 27th Street upon its second consideration. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Seconded. And any discussion? And a roll call vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you, Kelly.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
That motion passes. We will now move on to the consent calendar. So the following items will be acted upon by a voice vote on a single motion without separate discussion, unless someone from the council or public requests that a specific item be considered separately. Are there any requests for items on the consent calendar to be considered separately from council?
12.
Item number 12. Any others? And any requests from the public? All right, so we will now move to pass all items except for item 12 for the consent calendar. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Seconded. Do we have any discussion? And we'll voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. And we will now review item number 12, which is approving the following recommendations of the mayor relative to the appointment of members to boards and commission. Gordon Sorensen, excuse me, I'm not used to the full name, Maureen Henderson, and Brent Johnson for the various dates. Gil, since you pulled it, I'll let you.
I just want the world to separate the twins so we know who's going on the board. That guy.
And so we did want to pull this. We've got one of the people being appointed in the audience. Would you like to be able to say a few words, or? You'll probably say plenty of words.
Yeah, yeah.
So I just want to say thank you for your willingness to be involved in the committee. I know we have a council member that can speak to some of that involvement.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks to everyone that volunteered. You know, it's exciting. It's a fun thing to do. You get to learn a lot about your community and meet a lot of people. So I hope you enjoy it as much as I did.
And we did have several other good applicants. So we had 3 open positions. So we will still, I think that's all we have coming up anytime soon. But so the others did express they weren't able to make it. But so we will look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, and voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. I'll move on to the resolution calendar. So the following items will be acted upon by a roll call vote on a single motion without separate discussion, unless someone from the council or public requests that a specific item be considered separately. Are there any requests for items on the resolution calendar to be considered separately from council?
19.
Item number 19. And any from the public? All right, so we will then look to approve items 16 through 24, removing item number 19. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
And that will require, or any discussion? So a roll call vote.
Aye.
Thank you, Kelly.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
The motion carries, and we will look to number 19, resolution designating July 5th and July 6th, 2024, from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. as additional days of use for consumer fireworks within city limits. Quick background of this, I know we'll have Craig speak. The reason it's on tonight is we do need to approve it by the end of this month for the state regulations. So, Craig, if you could give us a quick background on the recommendation.
All right, Mayor, Council. The current ordinance says that by March 1st of each year, we have to designate any additional days if we want to, along with July 4th. So really with the police command staff and I, we discussed it with a Thursday, July 4th, trying to make our best guess at when would most people be hosting events or possibly shoot off fireworks. It's probably going to be very common that a lot of people will work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday that week. And then they would have a 4-day weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So we are recommending allowing fireworks use on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We've checked with Waterloo, but as of this point, I don't think they know what they're doing yet, or they didn't as of a few days ago. We're really not passionately tied to this either. If you guys come to a different recommendation, we can sure do it. Of course, in terms of enforcement and staffing enforcement, when you allow the fireworks to be legal, of course, that makes enforcement easier. When you restrict it at times that people will probably go out and use fireworks, then we have to staff up. There's more enforcement, more fines, and things like that. So,
thank you, Director Birdie. I'll just say from my end, I've gotten a few requests to reach out, probably I think 4, just specifically asking us not to include the additional days. I think most of the requests I've heard have been specifically just to allow them on the 4th. Open up for, I guess we first need a motion to approve.
Mayor, I have one more thing too. I
have
one more thing. So regardless whether it's 1, 2, or 3 days, we'll still do, I've got a list here, our neighborhood signage, brochures at the fireworks displays, the posters, brochures that go with anybody that purchases fireworks, social media, city cable, anything we can do with billboards. So we'll still have a fireworks campaign to try and educate the community regardless what's chosen tonight.
Thank you, Director.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve,
Second.
seconded, and open up for discussion.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmembers?
Yeah, I think one of the things I would echo, there were a couple people that reached out, including some neighbors in my area that said, you know, I don't want the extra days, but I think the compromise that we saw a couple years ago has paid dividends, and I think Director Birdie could attest to that. My sentiment is this: if people are going to typically use them on that Friday anyway, because they might have a 4-day weekend, and we outlaw it then, if they're going to go ahead and do as they darn well please on an outlawed Friday, they're probably going to do it in June and later in July as well. So this is a compromise to give a window for that outlet, so to speak, so that we can get 90 quieter days throughout the summer in exchange for these few. I think it's worked out well. We've saved some overtime costs by saying, hey, these are the times when people are going to use them. So I think it's a cost-effective way to do it as well. I would say I'm passionately about having fireworks. I love celebrating. But it's just a logical decision for me. It's a compromise that we have exercised thus far, and it's worked out well.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
Question for Director Birdie or Chief Howard. Can you refresh my memory? I mean, after we truly identified and enforced this last year, your number of citations for this were relatively minimal. Is that correct?
Yes, it really plummeted, and I was going to actually, Councilman Ganfield brings up a good point. When we've allowed the additional days, it seems like compliance has greatly improved because you're giving people a window to do it in. You're giving them a time that's pretty convenient. You know, if you could pick a Thursday, Friday, or Saturday night celebration or family event. And so, yeah, enforcement has done very well, and people have been very compliant when it comes to the end date. We still have some stragglers, and we enforce that and deal with it, but they've done very well. Every year as it goes on, it's done better and better.
Thank you.
Well, I pulled it to talk about people that contacted me as well, and they weren't for it. They were the ones that were concerned about the additional days of exposure for dogs and for people that are sensitive and to the noise and other things. This is kind of a tough one because, you know, what if we decide to have a New Year's Eve fireworks and all right, well, someone didn't make it to the house, so it's going to be on the 3rd of January now, or it muddies it every year. I think if we're going to make a decision, I'd rather we just say the 4th of July is the holiday, and that's when the holiday is the 4th of July.
Councilmember Schultz?
Mr. Mayor?
Yep, Councilmember Dunn.
Okay, so this conversation, it's been going on for, for many years, but this most recent allowance of fireworks for a few days has been going on for the last, I believe, 3 years, maybe now, maybe 2 years. I still stand by, in a perfect world, or I guess my perfect world, and I love celebrating, but if we could go back to where we weren't selling legal fireworks within our city limits and the days, I guess what I'll call my childhood, where you went to your, they weren't even available here in Iowa, I would. But since we have what we have now because of the current laws in our state, the reason that I was supportive of this from the beginning, and I think continue to be supportive of it, is because of the enforcement factor, and trusting that our public safety professionals, it gives them. It's not so, I guess, the mass chaos of what it was before, where they weren't legal at all in our city. From what I understand as a council person and what I remember as a citizen, we still had them, but it was just kind of chaos. Maybe I feel like for the maybe 15 days before or 15 days after, and that might not be totally true, but now, like Director Birdie said, this window gives a chance for folks to celebrate with the fireworks they've purchased legally in our city, and it makes it easier for our public safety staff to control the days that where it's not legal. I do have concerns, and I think what I hear from our citizens, usually when it's the 4th of July, is how people choose to set them off. Where, for instance, last year, and still we're in a drought, and folks can be in a very close proximity to their neighbors and their neighbor's house, and choose to set off fireworks, which I'm not sure. Director Birdie, if that happens and somebody has a concern about their safety, even in the window of where we've said it's okay to use fireworks, I would assume if someone's concerned about the safety of their well-being or their home, if they made a call to dispatch, that would still be addressed because of the safety concern. Is that correct?
Dispatch told them it was legal. We would want them to insist, well, hey, I still want an officer to come out to see where they're, lighting off these fireworks and where the debris is falling. So absolutely, we would follow up on it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. I just want folks again to know that I did see the emails. I totally get their concern, and honestly, I feel that concern. As a person and as a citizen of our community, but I will go back to the core of why I considered and supported and still support the window, and that is so that it's more possible for our public safety folks to enforce the use of the fireworks.
Mayor?
Yep, Councilmember.
All right. I have a question for Director Birdie, if that's okay. So the compare and contrast for me is, so let's say we have the 3-day window, because I guess it gives people enough time to use whatever they bought. So what was it like when it was a single day? I mean, why was enforcement difficult? Were people shooting fireworks off for a week around it, or what was happening?
Well, I would say, so last year we did 2 days, and we had very good compliance with those 2 days. And in fact, I'm looking here, I think the days were Monday and Tuesday, though, so, kind of unique days. Before it was legal, I would say my police perspective was, and a citizen, you really probably had fireworks for kind of like Kelly said, 5, 6, 7, 8 days around July 4th, kind of, and the weekends too, before and after it. I can't sit here and say we've had 1 day. Maybe we've had 1 day, I don't know. I can't recall if we've had just 1 day that was legal or not.
Okay.
Chief Howard.
So to answer your question, before they were legal, it would increase calls. Matter of fact, there was a call when I was a second shift commander where we had 56 extra calls just for one shift, all related to fireworks, which were not permitted. Every year that you, as a council, have permitted days or created this window, as Mr. Ganfield was speaking about, we've saw a reduction. We also see a lot of people really staying within that window where use drops right off. And our numbers showed that. Now, we'll support whatever you decide. My team will go out and do whatever. I will say it's where we have to force people in to do it. I can't get anybody signed up to come in and enforce fireworks. I'm just being honest with you.
No, I understand.
The average I looked up today is just over 30 extra calls for second shift. On nights, it's not permitted if the weekend's not included. Again, if it's what you decide, we'll do it. We have no problems doing it. It's just logistically, it's easier for us if we have that window, but we'll do whatever the council asks us to do.
I appreciate that. I take Councilman Schultz's point. I mean, there's a part of me that's, that's the time to celebrate the 4th, so that's when we should do the fireworks, and that highlights the day. But I also understand practically what we're talking about from enforcement mechanism, and I think maybe on the whole we're better off with having those 3 days as opposed to just a shorter period of time, given what we know about the past.
We always see, especially when 4th of July is close to a weekend, we always see a large amount of use on Friday, Saturday nights. So.
Makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Cruz.
Question for whoever knows. We're saying from 9 to 10 on the 5th and 6th. July 4th, I believe, is 11 p.m.?
Yeah, the state law says on the 4th you can do it till 11 p.m., but on any other days it has to end by 10 p.m.
Also, the state requires, sorry.
And so that's why we're not able to make that time consistent.
So I know we had a bit of a discussion previous years to have uniformity with the end all being at 11, because I hear people saying it's confusing, they don't know, and they shoot off anyway, more than likely, those nights, from what I hear. So
we've had very good, we've had very good compliance with that 11 o'clock end time, because if it doesn't get dark till 9:30, 9:40, and with a 10 o'clock window, you really there's not a lot of time to shoot off fireworks. So we've had very good compliance with the 11 o'clock ending on July 4th, but it makes sense. You got about an hour and a half to shoot them off. But then the state law controls the 10 o'clock on the others.
Oh, it does?
Yeah, you can't go to 11 on dates outside July 4th.
Oh, I don't recall that being brought up in previous years, but I'll take your word for it, so thanks.
Mr. Mayor, matter of fact, we had a 10:30 window that didn't comply, so we had to change that 2 years ago. But yeah, I think we've seen the same thing. It cuts off right at the end window there. And to Councilman Hawbaker's point, when it's a Monday or Tuesday, I think people are going to shoot them off on the weekend, but that gives that opportunity. There was, not for nothing, there was also the argument that if there's a rain day on the 4th, you don't want people sitting there with live munitions, some people called them, sitting in their basements for a year. So it gives an opportunity to do that. Now, I would also go on the record and say, as a public request, if you're going to have a big show, please go outside city limits and do it in a safe place that you own in the county or elsewise. But keep it respectful to your neighborhoods. Don't do anything crazy, and stick within these allotted windows. Otherwise, we're going to have to take them away.
Any other council discussion?
I guess to the point Mr. Canfield said was clean up. If your aerials go clear off into neighbors' yards, that's probably one of the big complaints I hear. Going on rooftops, starting fires in the gutters, that sort of thing. Be mindful of that where you shoot them, so they land on your property if you can. Well, they should.
Yeah, and it's illegal if they don't.
We really haven't discussed that tonight, but that'll be part of our educational campaign too, is those do's and don'ts and being respectful, being a courteous neighbor, so.
As the child of a retired firefighter, I spent much of my life being terrified of fireworks. So these are definitely not my favorite days. So I do strongly empathize with the people who don't love this. But I would echo what Kelly said. I think, this is where we are. And so if this is the safest way to do it, and, knowing that there is a way to enforce compliance, I think does bring some reassurance, and I really appreciate our public safety's effort to educate people. I think that is a great step forward in keeping things safe and, keeping our streets clean and all of that. So appreciate the work that you guys do. Thank you.
Any other final comments? Otherwise, we will look for we have already motioned in seconds, so we need to do a roll call vote. Totally wasn't checking my notes on that.
Aye.
Thank you, Kelly.
6 voting aye, 1 voting nay, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That motion passes. So we will now move on to allowing bills and claims. Do we have a motion to allow bills and claims for February 19th?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is seconded, and roll call vote, please. Unless there's any discussion.
Aye.
Thank you, Kelly.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Any council updates or announcements? And we have no written referrals, but does council have any pressing referrals we can make tonight? And then otherwise, we will then move to executive session. So executive session, we'll be moving to discuss information contained in records and the custody of a governmental body that are confidential records pursuant to Iowa Code Section 22.7, Section 50, and to discuss property acquisition per Iowa Code Section 21.5, 1J, to discuss the purchase or sale of particular real estate only where premature disclosure could be reasonably expected to increase the price the governmental body would have to pay for that property or reduce the price the governmental body will receive for that property. Do we have a motion and second to go to executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Seconded, and roll call vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you, Kelly.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
We will now go to executive session. We will come back to adjourn afterwards, but no further information or city business will be discussed. Thank you, everyone, for coming. You're welcome to stick around if you'd like. Otherwise, have a good night. We'll see you in 2 weeks.